Hello, and thank you for viewing our memory test video. Casio specializes in the verification and test of embedded systems. In this short video, we're going to present a test strategy and utilize that test strategy to quickly locate a memory error. Let's get started. Let's take a moment and review the test setup. We'll be using a Panda board which is based on TI's OMAP4 processor, and we'll be using two of those boards. The first Panda board exhibits a memory error, and the second one does not. Each Panda board will be running a VTOS. VTOS is Casio's special purpose operating system for verification and test. VTOS will be communicating to a laptop which is running Integration Workbench. Integration Workbench acts as a user console, providing a test menu as well as a command line interface to VTOS. As I mentioned, the Panda board is based on a TI OMAP4 processor. This is a block diagram of the development board that we'll be using as our device under test. As you can see, we have MIPI, audio, camera, HDMI, etc. Casio offers functional tests for each of these blocks, but in the case of this video, we're going to focus in on the memory. The test process will be driven through Integration Workbench, which acts as a user console. From here, you'll have access to a test menu, as well as a command line interface to VTOS. Functional tests are run with the click of a mouse button by selecting them from the test menu. From the command line, you can read and write memory, peek and poke hardware, access and configure connected devices, load and execute code and tests, as well as create and execute custom test scripts. As I mentioned, Integration Workbench provides the user with a test menu. Here's a screenshot of the user manual covering the SD-RAM tests. As you can see, there are 10 different tests covering data, address, memory, and burst modes. The tests can be run on an individual basis with the click of the mouse, and they also come pre-packaged in terms of a quick test as well as a complete test. With scripting, the user also has the option to pick and choose both the test and the sequence to run. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Don Shepard, who is an embedded software engineer at Casio, and he'll be actually running through the test process. Thanks, Don.
Thank you, Bob. The Casio verification utility allows you to run any test in our test suites on your target product. This particular version has the TI OMAP commands in it. The Casio verification utility allows you to either use the command index to run commands, or it also has a command line entry prompt. For SD-RAM, a good example is we can look at the CPU MMU table using that command from the table. And we can also, as an example of using the command prompt, enter SD-RAM display settings. This shows all of the pre-configured SD-RAM operational parameters that Casio develops for your subsystem. These register values are pre-configured in the Casio diagnostic for reliable SD-RAM operation. You can use these values to port into your application for reliable SD-RAM operations. So to run SD-RAM tests, we can go down to the table entries for SD-RAM. You can see in the SD-RAM category we have low-level commands, we have test methods which are configurable tests, we have performance tests which heat things up, we have diagnostic tests which are pre-configured tests that Casio sets up for you, and then we have suites which are combinations of tests. So the first thing that we will run is the SD-RAM Quick Test Suite. So this test passed, and it does a basic test of address and data lines in your SD-RAM subsystem. We will now launch the comprehensive SD-RAM test suite. This takes several minutes to test the entire SD-RAM subsystem. For this demonstration, we'll start it and come back in a few minutes with the result. As you can see, there were SD-RAM failures in the comprehensive test suite. To determine which particular test in the suite failed, we can right-click on the test suite entry and display a report of the results. By doing that, we see that it was the SD-RAM burst test that failed. In that failure code, you can look up in the Casio user manual.
Let's take a moment and summarize what we've just seen. We've demonstrated a memory test solution that is comprised of commands, methods, tests, and suites. We used a verification environment which was based on Integration Workbench, which we use to communicate with VTOS, the operating system that the device under test was running. Utilizing the verification environment, we quickly located a memory problem. The next step is to isolate that memory problem, and that'll be the topic of the next video. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for attending.